And the moment I finally did it, the moment I finally gave you the parts of me you kept asking for, you called me a mess. Tears filled her eyes. The room went still. And then you left. Omar looked away, not because he disagreed, but because he remembered. Do you know how much that hurt me? Six months later, Mandraka and Omar's connection did not look the same. Didn't feel the same either. It was clear that pull wasn't enough to keep them connected because their love looked nothing like it used to look. The texts had gotten shorter. The intimacy lost its softness. The conversations lost the safety. And somehow every conversation felt like it started in the middle of an argument. It was the beginning of their workday, and Omar stared at his phone, anticipating a response that never came. You really not talking to me? Delivered. Dre. Delivered. So that's what we doing now? Delivered. Nothing. Across the building, Mandraka sat in her office pretending to focus on her work. Her phone buzzed again and again and again. She didn't pick it up, didn't check it, didn't feed into it, because lately every conversation felt the same. She was tired. A knock landed against her office door. She already knew who it was. Come in. Omar stepped inside, looking like someone who hadn't gotten his way all day. Really? He asked. Mandraka continued typing. Mandraka. Nothing. Can you at least look at me when I'm talking to you? She finally looked up, calm, collected, unmoved. What? That single word irritated him immediately. What do you mean, what? I mean, what? She leaned back in her chair. What are we talking about today? The question hit harder than she intended, because they both knew exactly what she meant. Another issue, another misunderstanding, another emotional fire she was expected to put out. Omar laughed bitterly. There you go. There I go what? Acting like I'm the problem. Mandraka nodded slowly, not agreeing, just listening. And somehow that made him even angrier. Say something. You seem like you have a lot to say. The calmness, the patience, the complete refusal to engage. It drove him crazy. Forget it. Gladly. Omar just stood at the door, staring at her, waiting, giving her one more opportunity to stop him, to chase him, to care. But she just turned back to her computer, and suddenly he felt invisible. Whatever. Have a good day. The office door slammed behind him. Mandraka closed her eyes, exhaled, and forced herself back into work. That night, Omar never came home. He drove across town to his old condo, the one he had not been to in months. Slept on the couch, ignored her calls, ignored her texts, ignored the part of himself that wanted to go back. Around midnight, his phone lit up. Mandraka. For a moment, he smiled, thinking she was finally coming around. Then he opened it. If you don't come home tonight, don't come home at all. Omar stared at the message and felt his heart drop into his stomach. Anxiety, stress, anger. He couldn't tell. And after that, Omar barely slept. The couch at his old condo was uncomfortable, but that wasn't what kept him awake. It was the text, the one that sat in his head all night. By morning, his pride had worn off, the anger too. All that remained was the uncomfortable realization that he probably pushed things too far again. "I'm heading out," Omar said, grabbing his keys. His friend looked up from the television. "You good?" "Yeah." The lie came easy. Outside, Omar climbed into his car and immediately pulled out his phone. "Can we talk?" Nothing. No delivered notification. His eyebrows pulled together. "Dre?" "Nothing." "Don't do this." "Nothing." That's when he realized it. He was blocked. The realization hit him like a punch to the chest. For a second, he just stared at the screen, waiting for it to change, waiting for it to make sense, waiting for something. Nothing. His fist slammed into the steering wheel. The horn blared loudly. People walking nearby turned to look. A woman pulling groceries from her trunk stared. A teenager laughed. Omar immediately sat back, embarrassed, breathing hard. He dropped the phone into the passenger seat and started the car. The drive home felt longer than usual. Every red light annoyed him. Every slow driver irritated him. Every minute stretched. By the time he pulled into the driveway, he was running entirely on frustration. He stormed to the front door, banged loudly. Nothing. He knocked again, harder. Still, nothing. Then, through the front window, he saw her, Mandraka, curled up on the couch, book in hand, reading, like she didn't hear him, like he didn't exist. That somehow pissed him off more than if she'd answered. He pulled out his key, unlocked the door, stepped inside. Mandraka looked up briefly, just long enough to confirm it was him, then returned to her book. No hello, no welcome home, no explanation. "Omar." Her voice was flat. Without another word, she stood, closed her book, walked toward the hallway. He watched her disappear into the bedroom, then slam. The bedroom door rattled inside its frame. Silence followed. Omar stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the hallway, waiting for her to come back out, waiting for the fight, waiting for something. Nothing happened. His jaw tightened because he knew himself, and he knew if he walked upstairs right now, he'd say something petty, something stupid, something he'd regret. So instead, he dropped onto the couch, still convinced she was overreacting. But beneath all of that, something else was growing. A feeling he hated. Fear. Because for the first time in a long time, Mandraka wasn't trying to pull him closer. She was trying to keep her distance. And Omar didn't know how to handle that. The next few weeks felt tense. Not explosive, just tense. The kind of tension that settles into a relationship when neither person wants to apologize first. Conversations became shorter. Affection became rare. And pride became louder than love. Omar was grabbing coffee before a meeting when he spotted Mandraka across the lobby. At first, he wasn't paying attention. Then he noticed the guy standing beside her, laughing, leaning in, finding reasons to keep the conversation going. The kind of conversation every man recognizes immediately. They were flirting. Omar felt irritation crawl up his spine. Not because Mandraka was doing anything wrong, but because she looked like she was enjoying it. The guy said something. Mandraka laughed, touched his arm briefly. Omar's jaw tightened. Then she saw him across the room. For a moment, neither moved. Neither looked away. Mandraka knew exactly what he was thinking, and instead of ending the conversation, she held eye contact, then smiled defiantly at Omar and turned her attention right back to the man. Something ugly flared inside Omar's chest. A few minutes later, he found himself talking to a woman from another department, a woman he once told Mandraka he slept with years ago. The conversation started innocent enough, but it didn't stay that way. Too much laughing, too much eye contact, too much effort. And Omar knew exactly who he was performing for, Mandraka. Eventually, he placed his hand on the small of the woman's back, guiding her toward his office. The office Mandraka could clearly see. The door closed behind them, and nothing happened. No argument, no confrontation, no text message, no dramatic reaction. When Omar looked back through the glass 20 minutes later, Mandraka was gone. That should have felt like a victory. Instead, it made his stomach hurt. By the time he got home that night, the feeling still hadn't left. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Dre? Nothing. He stepped further inside, then stopped. All of his things were sitting on the couch, neatly folded, neatly stacked, waiting. The same couch he'd been sleeping on for weeks. For a second, he just stared, trying to understand what he was looking at, trying to convince himself it meant something smaller than what it clearly meant. Then he saw the note. One sentence, written in Mandraka's handwriting. If you want to act single, you can sleep single too. Omar fell onto the couch and exhaled, threw his keys on the table, and realized he might be playing to lose. The note worked. Not the way Mandraka hoped. Not the way Omar feared, but it worked. For the first time in weeks, they were forced to stop playing games. Omar found her in the kitchen the next morning, coffee in hand, laptop open, ignoring him again. Dre. Nothing. Dre. Mandraka sighed heavily, closed her eyes, counted to 3, then finally looked up. What? The irritation in her voice wasn't loud. It was tired. And somehow that felt worse. Omar sat across from her, not defensive, not angry, just exhausted. What's happening to us? Mandraka laughed because she'd heard versions of that question before, usually after the damage was already done. Be specific, she said, stirring her coffee, never breaking eye contact. Omar looked away, already frustrated. The girl, the guy, the fights, the distance. What girl? Mandraka asked sarcastically. Omar looked at her intensely, agitated, trying very hard to remain patient. Forget the girl. He rubbed his forehead. It feels like you're starting to hate me, and I don't even know what I did to get us here. Mandraka nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. Yep. Omar stared at her, confused, annoyed. That's it? What do you want me to say, Omar? She leaned back in her chair. Do you want me to cry? No. Throw something? No. Yell? No. Then, okay. The silence settled between them, heavy, uncomfortable. Because for once, Mandraka wasn't giving him a reaction, and Omar hated it. I'm just trying to find a way to fix this. He finally admitted it. Congratulations. That one stung. Mandraka looked back down at her coffee. You know what's crazy? Omar sighed. We're too old for this. I'm perfectly sane, Mandraka said, raising an eyebrow. Can we get serious for 1 minute? Give me something to take seriously, and I won't mind giving you that minute. That one landed hard, because deep down, Omar knew exactly what she meant. I want to fix this, Dre. Tell me how. For the first time all morning, Mandraka actually looked at him, trying to decide if he meant it, trying to decide if she still had the energy to care. You said that before. I know. And then what? Omar didn't answer immediately because he knew exactly what came next. Distance, withdrawal, pride, fear, the same cycle, over and over again. I don't know. He laughed softly, more defeated than amused. Maybe we start with dinner. Mandraka shook her head, a small laugh escaping despite herself. You think food fixes everything. A smile tugged at the corner of Omar's mouth. No, but it has fixed a lot so far. That finally earned a real smile. Small, but real. Omar's shoulders relaxed. Just a little. Tonight? He asked. Mandraka stared at him for a moment, long enough to make him nervous. Long enough to remind him how much power she still had over his peace. Then, finally, she nodded. Tonight. Neither of them realized it then. But somewhere along the way, they had stopped trying to save the relationship and started trying to save each other from the pain of losing it. And those aren't always the same thing. Dinner was surprisingly good. No arguing, no accusations, no passive-aggressive comments disguised as jokes. Just conversation. The kind they used to have. Easy, comfortable, familiar. They talked about work, the kids, a movie they both wanted to see. Even laughed a few times. Real laughs, the kind that made them forget they were struggling. By dessert, Omar felt lighter, hopeful, even, like maybe they'd finally turned a corner. Maybe all the tension from the last few weeks had finally broken. Mandraka smiled, she laughed, she participated, but something was different. Subtle, almost invisible. She never reached for his hand, never leaned against him, never touched his arm when she laughed. And Omar noticed. Because when you're used to someone's affection, you notice the absence of it. The drive home was quiet. Not uncomfortable, just quieter than usual. When they walked inside, Omar found himself watching her, trying to figure out what felt off, trying to convince himself he was imagining it. Maybe he was. Mandraka disappeared into the kitchen, then upstairs, then back downstairs, moving through the house like she always did, but somehow feeling miles away. Omar found her folding laundry in the living room. Dre. She looked up. Yeah. The smile came, but it disappeared quickly, like it was borrowed. You okay? Yeah. The answer came too fast. You sure? Mandraka nodded. I'm fine. But she wasn't, and they both knew it. Omar stepped closer, wanting to bridge the distance that had followed them home from dinner. Wanting something familiar, something that proved they were okay. Mandraka immediately felt it. The expectation, the reaching, the need. And for the first time, she stepped back. The movement was small. The impact wasn't. Omar froze. What was that? What was what? You stepped away from me. Mandraka sighed, closed her eyes briefly, already exhausted. Omar. The room got quiet. Mandraka placed the folded towel on the couch, carefully, like she was choosing her words. I'm still upset. We just had a good night. I know. Then why does it feel like you're punishing me? That question irritated her immediately. See, she said softly, no matter what I feel, somehow we end up talking about you. Omar's jaw tightened. I took responsibility. For one thing. One thing? The tension returned instantly, like it had been waiting outside the door all night. Mandraka rubbed her forehead, tired, frustrated. This is exactly what I'm talking about. What? You think dinner fixes months of hurt? The words landed hard. Neither one spoke for a moment. Then Mandraka picked up the laundry basket. I'm going to bed. And just like that, the distance was back. Only this time, it felt like something neither one of them knew how to cross anymore. The next night, Mandraka sat on the couch pretending to watch television. Omar sat beside her pretending to watch it too. Eventually, Omar grabbed his keys. Where are you going? Tyler's. Mandraka nodded, never looked away from the screen. Okay. And somehow, that hurt. Later that night, Omar found himself sitting across from Tyler at a sports bar, mind elsewhere. You look miserable, Tyler laughed. I'm trying to figure out what happened. Tyler took a drink. What happened is you two have been fighting for 4 months straight. Omar leaned back, frustrated, confused, tired. I don't know. He rubbed his face. It's like nothing I do matters anymore. Tyler listened. I try to fix things. How? Dinner, time together, showing up. Tyler nodded slowly. And? Omar looked down, and she acts like she's already gone. The words sat heavily between them. Maybe she's tired. Tyler offered. Tired of what? You. Silent. For the first time all night, Omar didn't have an answer. Across town, Mandraka sat on LeClaire's couch with a glass of wine she barely touched. LeClaire studied her. You still love him. Mandraka laughed. Unfortunately. Then, what's the problem? Mandraka stared into her glass, quiet for a long moment. Then, finally, I don't trust him. LeClaire stopped smiling, because that answer was different. What don't you trust? LeClaire asked softly. Mandraka swallowed hard. I don't trust him with my heart. The answer surprised even her, because the truth definitely sounded different out loud. He keeps asking me to believe him. Tears gathered in her eyes. And every time I do. She stopped. LeClaire waited. And every time I do, Mandraka whispered, he changes his mind. The room fell silent, because suddenly the problem wasn't the coworker, or the argument, or the couch. The problem was much older than that. And for the first time, Mandraka finally said it out loud. I never got over him leaving. Mandraka finally said it. The words felt heavier once they were spoken aloud. She took a long sip of the wine, letting the tears fall freely now. She and LeClaire talked for hours after that. Long enough for the wine to disappear. Long enough for old wounds to feel fresh again. Long enough for Mandraka to realize she spent months trying to forgive something she never actually healed from. By the time she got home, it was almost 2 a.m, and she immediately spotted Omar sitting in his car, bottle in hand. She scoffed. Drinking and driving again. It was something he always did after seeing Tyler. Something she hated. Something he always dismissed. Mandraka rushed inside and headed straight upstairs. She didn't have the energy. Not tonight. The shower helped. For a little while. The hot water washing away the tears, the sadness, the heaviness of her conversation with LeClaire. Tell him. That was LeClaire's advice. Tell him you don't feel safe and see what he does with it. But Mandraka wasn't sure she trusted him with those emotions anymore. Then she heard the front door slam, hard. A few moments later, she heard him stumble into the bedroom, heavier footsteps than usual, slower, drunker. Mandraka closed her eyes. Of course. When she stepped out of the shower, Omar was sprawled across the bed, bottle beside him, eyes glossy, half drunk, half defensive. She roughly pulled back the shower curtain, the sudden movement startling him. Why do you have to get drunk every time you feel something uncomfortable? I'm not drunk. Omar laughed, reaching for the bottle. I'm relaxed. Mandraka just stared at him. Disgusted, disappointed, tired. Whatever. She threw on her robe and started toward the bedroom door. Yeah. Omar scuffed. Whatever, Ice Queen. That stopped her. Immediately. She turned, slowly. What did you call me? Omar sat up. Ice Queen. His voice carried that careless confidence people get when they're drunk enough to be honest and reckless at the same time. It's a woman who has no emotions. He shrugged. She just judges the rest of us for having them. Really? She folded her arms. So the night you broke up with me because I showed you too much emotion. Her voice lowered. What were you then? The room got quiet. Omar's expression changed instantly. His eyes narrowed. Oh. He laughed. But there was no humor in it. That's what this is about? Mandraka didn't answer. You still mad about one of the 100 breakups we've had over the last year and a half? There it is. Mandraka nodded. That lack of emotional intelligence again. She chuckled, but nothing was funny. Okay. Omar sat up straighter. crossing his legs. Explain it to me. His voice dripped with sarcasm. So I'll know how to think just, he paused, like you. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Mandraka finally did. You spent months trying to get me to open up. You pushed. You begged. You made me feel guilty for being guarded. Her voice cracked a little, just a little. And the moment I finally did it, the moment I finally gave you the parts of me you kept asking for, you called me a mess. Tears filled her eyes. The room went still. And then you left. Omar looked away, not because he disagreed, but because he remembered. Do you know how much that hurt me? Silence. No. He laughed bitterly. I didn't. His eyes met hers because you never told me. His voice grew louder. You never tell me anything. The bottle slammed onto the nightstand. You don't tell me how you feel. Another slam. You don't tell me when you're angry. Another. You don't tell me when you're hurt. His voice cracked. So honestly, he looked away, shaking his head. I stopped caring. The second those words left his mouth, the room changed. Because Tyler was right. Omar sneered as he turned away, hands shoved into his pockets, his face somehow colder than his words. About what? Mandraka asked quietly, confused. The moment I let you know I cared, he laughed bitterly. I was fucked. Mandraka straightened, and she didn't interrupt, didn't defend herself, just listened. Do you know how many women I could be with right now? His voice rose, angrier, sharper. I've had women beg me to commit, women begging to be mine. Yet, somehow, you're the one person that doesn't appreciate any of the things most women would kill to have. Mandraka's eyes tightened, but she remained silent. You know what I don't do? He pointed toward the floor. I don't do sleepovers. I don't do cuddling. I don't do pillow talk. I don't do weekly dinners. I don't ask to meet people's kids. His voice cracked, just slightly. But I did all of that for you. The room fell silent. And here you are finding reasons to reject every effort I've made. His eyes searched hers. So what is it? Do you just want to be alone? The question sounded less like concern and more like a threat. Mandraka tilted her head, still silent, still listening. I could name 3 women right now. He laughed bitterly. 3. Women that would gladly stand where you stand. Women that would fight you for the place you got in my life. Would that humble you? The words hung in the air. Ugly. Cruel. For the first time all night, Mandraka took a step back because she was seeing him clearly. I don't have the energy to chase something that's constantly running away, Omar continued, especially when I've got a phone full of women waiting for another chance. The silence afterward felt endless. Then, finally, Mandraka nodded, once, slowly. Got it. That's all she said. Got it. No yelling, no tears, no argument, just understanding. But that wasn't the reaction he wanted. He wanted anger. He wanted jealousy. He wanted pain. Anything that proved she still wanted to fight for him. Instead, she looked tired. Like she had finally solved the puzzle she'd been working on for years. And somehow, that scared him more than any scream ever could. The room sat silent, heavy, dead. Omar waited for something. A reaction? An argument? A reason to stay angry? Nothing came. Mandraka simply looked at him, the same way someone looks at a book after finally reaching the last page. For the first time all night, Omar felt small. "You don't have anything else to say?" he asked. "No." Her voice was calm, certain. The silence stretched. Then Omar grabbed his keys. Neither moved, neither stopped the other. The front door opened, then closed. And that was it. Mandraka stood there for a long moment, realizing she was standing in the wreckage of something she once thought would last forever. Then, finally, the tears came. Quiet, heavy, relentless. She walked through the house slowly, past the kitchen where they made grilled cheese at 11 o'clock at night, past the couch where they'd fallen asleep watching movies, past the dining room table where they planned futures neither of them would ever see. Every room felt haunted, not by Omar, by hope. Outside, Omar sat in his car, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel, waiting for her to call, for her to text, for her to come outside, for something. But nothing happened. Minutes passed. Then he noticed movement upstairs. Mandraka, standing in the bedroom window. Her face was covered in tears. Their eyes met. Neither smiled because both of them understood. This wasn't just another breakup. This wasn't a break. This wasn't another chapter. This was the end. Mandraka tilted her head, the sadness in her face almost unbearable. Then slowly, she lifted her hand and waved goodbye. Mandraka lowered her hand, reached toward the lamp beside her bed, and one by one, the lights in the house disappeared. The kitchen, dark. The hallway, dark. The living room, dark. Until only her bedroom remained. She looked down at him. Then she turned away and vanished into the darkness. And Omar sat alone in the driveway, staring at a house that suddenly looked unfamiliar. He thought there would always be another chance, another conversation, another beginning, until there wasn't. And for the first time, Omar understood something that would haunt him for years. The one that got away was also the woman he never wanted to lose.
It's 11:31. Now the party's done. Get off the floor. Time to go home. Or you can stay the night. I know where we've been, yeah. But baby, that was then. Who knows where this goes? I'm scared of this ghost. Oh, don't assume I don't, just because I won't fall in. Maybe after this we can call it quits, destiny. Maybe we should try. Maybe we should try. What if it's different this time? What if we lose? What if we lose again? What if I won't fall in. Maybe after this we can call it quits, destiny. But maybe we should try. Maybe we should try. What if it's different this time? What if we lose? What if we lose again? What if the story ends? What if we lose again? In my dream, I'll never let you go. We never were alone. Yeah. Like a never grew its thorns, blossomed on our own. What if we lose? What if we lose again? What if the story ends? What if we lose again?